Hey, so remind me, this is part 2. So last week, a whole week ago, we talked about the introduction to the greatness zone and some things that were going on. So we were talking about the power of you, how amazing you are. And we gave you these gold bracelets that said you're born awesome. So I'm just trying to bring it back little by little. I might have it this week. But what I really wanted to do is to get back into why are we even talking about this. So I throw out the word to you, greatness. What kind of words come to mind for you? Say again? Talents, great. What else? Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? We all know what greatness is. We think we know it when we see it, but it's kind of hard to talk about it. So what the whole program we were trying to do with this Live Your Gifts was to talk about how do we talk about greatness? And what does it look like? How does it show up? So let me start with this. So, okay, right at this time of year, right, an acorn. So hardwired into an acorn is a blueprint to do what? Turn into an oak tree. It doesn't even know why, it doesn't know how, but it knows it's supposed to. So hardwired into that little acorn is the ability to see something great come from it. So, us, what's hardwired in us? We have a blueprint on who we're supposed to be. Actually, the word that we use for that instead is, what are the gifts that we have so we know how to use them to show up? See, the acorn doesn't get to choose. We get to choose. We get to look at the things that we have and then decide which ones fit us and which ones do the world need, and could we put the two together and show up big? And that's really what the whole message of the Greatness Zone is. So greatness really is, how well do I know myself? How well do I know my world? And where do I put the two together so I show up big? So why would this be a really good discussion to talk about at a church? To be in your greatness zone. What could you do with it if you knew what your greatness zone was? So when you leave tonight, we're going to show you how to get into your zone. That's what we're here for, right? So you read the book, thank you for that. We're going to talk about how to have a conversation about it. But mostly what I want for you tonight is, I know how to get in my zone. That's what I want you to leave. When you go through those doors, that's what I want you to say. I know how to do this. I know how to figure out, not the blueprint, but the gift that I got. I know that gift that I got. And I am now hunting. I'm an opportunity hunter. I am hunting down places where I can show up and do what I do best. Because then everything great happens from that. I get to be happy doing what I'm doing, and the world benefits from what I'm really good at. So we're going to talk about these different ways to get at greatness. Greatness through consciousness was the activity that I asked you to do over the week. I just want you to tune in. Just wanted you to watch and see what is it that I'm really good at. What am I passionate about? Because most of the time I go through life and I don't even notice. And the whole idea behind what Mary and Mike were talking about in the book, The Greatness Zone, is that Mary was tuned in and Mike wasn't. So that she knew where she needed to be and what fit her, because she was always watching for where she belonged. And Mike didn't even know where to look because he didn't know anything about him. So we're going to look at these 5 ways of looking at greatness. So tonight, greatness through consciousness or awareness. What is different about me? What's great about me? Notice he said this, in fact, we're just having a conversation about this. This wasn't called the good enough zone or do just as little as possible zone. This was, how do I show up and do amazing things? Because the blueprint of me or the gift that I got was not for small. I didn't get something small, I got something amazing. I just maybe don't quite know it yet. So these tools are going to help us start to articulate it so we know for us, and we know for each other, and we know for our family, we know for our church, and we know for our world how we could show up. Greatness through confidence. That's what we work on first tonight. See, if I know what I'm really good at, then I can start to put myself in places in the world that need it, and I feel strong about it. I know what to do. In some places I don't know what to do. But places that I do know what to do, I get very confident. So greatness then, you show up big to places that you're confident in. True you versus you on view. We talked about that last week. Who's the true you? And if you got a chance to use it more and more, you would show up confident. Our next one that we're going to do tonight, and the reason why you're on tables, is that your greatness comes through in your innovation. In your ability to hunt through your world to find places that need what you do best. The problem is that we generally don't get an answer to that. We have to go look for it. So we're going to show you how to get reconnected to that beautiful creativity that you were born with. That's why you're on teams tonight, because we're going to ask you to be way out of the box on some things so you can see how to do it, so you can be innovative, to build your confidence, to become more aware of how amazing you are. Last two. What we'll end with tonight is show you how, when you create some ideas on how to be innovative, how to show up big to your life, how to look for opportunities and possibilities that fit you, how do you get it off your paper and into life? Don't just talk about it. Great that you're talking about it, but do more than talk about it. Act on it. So greatness through action we'll talk about. And then the final one here, because really what my recommendation is how we all go to bed at night, is our greatness through gratitude. What is it that I have and who am I and isn't that amazing and do I say thank you enough about that? So those five cover really what happens in the greatness zone. Am I aware? The more aware I am, the better choices I make, the more confident I feel. The more confidence I have, the more I look out into the world and find places that fit me. And then the more I find those places, the more I get off the paper and into life and I go act on it. And then when I see how amazing it is that I get to connect on this stuff, then my recommendation is on the way to bed. How grateful can you be? How can your greatness happen through your gratitude? All of that, we got a lot to do tonight. Now, this is the point where we move very fast because I had to, for a whole week, try and get into the consciousness or awareness part of it. What is it that I'm really good at and what makes a difference? So, remember last week you said, look, we could put this whole big message into this one little picture. If we really want to figure out how to leave here tonight and know how to be in our zone, we just need to know these four things. What am I good at? What do I love? And what matters to me? Now we know us. What's going on in our world? And then how do I put it all together? That's it. And the reason why we call it the greatness zone is it doesn't matter where you are in your life, this information will guide you there. So if you're looking for a job and you're not sure where because you had a big life change, what am I good at? What do I love? What matters to me? Where in the world could I do it? I may have new choices, new possibilities about what fits me. As I get older, my kids are all grown up and I'm now a retiree, so my world has changed. If I have young kids, my world has changed. All of these things keep moving us around, and what you have, we think anyway, is a look at how do I show up big to everything that happens in life. So kids, here's the thing that I tell mine. If you know what you're good at, what you love, and what matters to you, no matter what you get up against to make a decision, you'll always choose wisely for you. You won't listen to everybody else, you'll start to pay attention to what matters to you. And when you do that, you put yourself in your best places. And that's really what I want most for the younger audience here is to see. You have a formula that lets you be okay, even if the world says, I don't think you're that cool. Well, down deep, you're born cool, you're born awesome, you're born amazing. Just because they don't get it doesn't mean you're not. What is it that it is for you is the critical thing. So I want you to remember this so you can go back at any point in time. The reason why I gave those bracelets, and if we have more if you need them, was so that if the world ever gives you a message that says you're not that cool or you're not that awesome, you just need to pull this out and say, wait a minute, yes I am. I'm American, it tells me I am. So that allows us to fight some of the things that we talked about. So, last week, gave you a big long introduction and a little bit about the story of Mary and Mike so that we could get to the action of this. So yes, there's a great theory in this, and yes, this is all has a spiritual message in addition to a practical life message. I want to take you through the practical steps so you can do this at any point in your life. So the first one we start with was greatness through consciousness or awareness. Who am I? What am I great at? What did I notice? So I gave you these activities to do. I told you about journaling. Asked you, if you haven't done it before, where'd you start? I'm going to check on you. Then, from the packs, there were a dozen questions. I asked you to answer some of the questions and see what they told you. I asked you to ask a couple of other people because sometimes other people have great input about who you are. And moreover, what's amazing and unique about you. Because remember, sometimes we don't even know we're different, unique, or amazing. It's just the way we see things. Until somebody says, hey, when you do that, that's great. Nobody else does that. That's terrific. I love how you did that. So sometimes we want that information. And the big part of it all was to say, look, how do we quiet it down so you can pay pay attention to this. So I asked you to think about either meditation, prayer, or quiet time where you unplug everything. And the reason to unplug everything was so that you had the ability of tuning into you. Because right now, everything else is a distraction. It's loud, it's noisy, I got music going, I got homework, I got all this stuff going on. There's no way you'll pay attention. But see what it says? Greatness through consciousness, paying attention, being aware. So this whole process, the hardest part about it was this. The things I'm going to take you through tonight, that's the easy part. Part 2 is easy. Part 1's tough. How do you show up to you? How do you pay attention to the signals, the information that you get? And I have to tell you, no matter what your age is, nobody can do this work for you. So if you're a kid, you're the one who has to go through and figure this stuff out. If you're an adult, you have to do this work. Because no one knows you like you know you. You have to tune in to what it is that makes you different and distinct and unique. And you have information. Remember I blew this air horn last time? Shocked a lot of you? I blew it and I said, Rick, in this one moment when I just knocked you off your chair, this was the first moment I had your attention for real. You were right with me just for that second. That present, to be that present, that connected in that moment is the kind of attention it takes to do this work so you can get to this, that first worksheet, all about me. So if you have that pack, open that up, the All About Me worksheet. So the 4 things that we just talked about were ways that you could get information. Being present is just the way you tune in to find out what you might see about who you are. So, how did you do with this? Really hard stuff. So, raise your hand if you thought this was a breeze. Good. Great. Well, terrific. See, it's kids. There's so much to learn. What would a kid do? Well, they would make this fun and they would get through it. So, remind me a little bit about what it was like to go through this. What was hard about this? So there's a lot here, so let me throw out some ideas if this was where you were with it, raising it. I couldn't quiet the week down enough for me to find some time to do this. If that was what got in your way, raise your hand. Hey, I totally get that. How on earth can I slow it down enough in order to tune in when I'm moving at 1,000 miles an hour, and if I stop, I'm either going to fall asleep because I'm so tired I'm running on autopilot here, or someone's going to think something's wrong with me and they're going to pack me up in a white jacket, special arms in it, and tote me away. So the reason for making the time, so I just wanted to show you the process. You have the book and you have the process. That's the best I can do for you. I want to throw it out there and say, see what it feels like. And when you're ready, and when you have time, and when it occurs to you, you start to fill that in so that All About Me worksheet has a lot of information on it, right? The reason for asking all those questions was you could see all of the things that matter. You get 1 page of the critical things about you. That's not a judgment, that's just information. What are the words that describe you? What are the words that identify what you're good at? What are the words that identify what you're passionate about? The more you ask those questions when you journal, then ask the questions and ask other people in meditation or prayer, the more you get tuned into that information that has been hiding from you. See, the acorn doesn't need to go and make some time and unplug the computer and pay attention to what's going on. It just knows. We have to tune in. So the reason why we say it's not a blueprint is that you don't have to follow it. The reason why we call it a gift is it has amazing things for you if you choose to open it. But the process requires a little bit of effort in order to see what's going on. Now, the reason why we had you do this and to give you a whole week to do it, this takes time. It's not the kind of thing you just turn on and off you go. So my encouragement is that you keep that sheet with you. And when you have an epiphany and awareness about who you are and something about you, you now have a place to put it down so you don't forget it. That's all. What I really want, and this is where our process is going to start, is I want some of the information that's on there so I can pull you through the process. Because this gives you information about you. Remember, the other important thing is what's going on in your world. We've got to help you build possibilities for that you in this world. We've got to put the 2 together. We're going to need the information that we put on that form. But we don't need all of it. That was just so that you had a place to put all of that in. So every now and then when you're not feeling like you're amazing, pull that thing out, put the spotlight on you, have everybody come, and then tell everybody how amazing you are. Because sometimes we just need to hear that. So I have yet one more tool that will help you with that as well. So the process, remember, because there's two parts to this. There's the theory of this and the process. The theory is, how do I help you step into what makes you great? The process is, here's the things I have to do to find out the information so I can do this. Okay? And the reason why we're here as families is that we're going to guide you in how do you help your kids do this. It's not easy work. But what we think we have is a pretty straightforward process, so long as you can have the conversation, you're starting to make progress and talk about things that nobody else is talking about. So, do me a favor, open that pack. I don't have them. To the next page. That looks like the one called the Greatness Factor. Just tell me what's the page number on it. Page 14. So here's why I needed you to do that All About Me worksheet. There's two sections on that that identifies what are the words that say what I'm good at, what are the words that say what I'm passionate about, right? That's on that thing. But you had to do all that work to get to those. Here's what I need you to do. Put on the left-hand side of that page everything you're good at. On the right-hand side, put everything you're passionate about. So take a minute, go ahead and do that. On the left-hand side, if you did the All About Me worksheet, there's a section in there that said, here are the words that I'm good at, here are the words I'm passionate about. Just fill out the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Is there anybody who's still missing a copy of the handout? I have two here that I can pass out to you. Is that help anybody? So while you're writing, let's just talk about this, okay? So why would I care that you're listing on one side all the things you're good at, and on the right-hand side, all the things you're passionate about? What could that do for you? Again? That's right, right. So look what it gives you. This is how people write a branding statement. Here's everything I'm good at and everything I'm passionate about. So just think about this for our older audience. You're in the elevator with the CEO of your company, you just get hired by him, and he says, oh, you're the new person. Why did we hire you? Oh, you go right down the thing on the left-hand side, you hired me because here are the things I'm great at, and here are the things I'm passionate about. I get to do that here in the job, and that's why I showed up here. This gives you the ability to tell yourself and others what it is that fits you. What are you good at, and what are you passionate about? Here's the ability for you to develop some confidence about what your gifts are. I find that I'm really good at these things. And notice it doesn't say I'm great at everything. It says, here are the things I'm really good at, and here are the things I'm interested in. So if I got a chance to do what I'm good at and passionate about, how might I show up to the world? Big or little? How might I show up to the world if I got a chance to do what I'm both good at and passionate about? Pretty big, right? Like again, the reason why we call this Greatness Zone is we were looking for what helps you tell yourself and others the things about you that are very strong and the way that you should then start to create possibilities that fit you. So, when you have this information, how does this boost your confidence? So if you know what you're good at, and you know what you're interested in or you're passionate about, you now have the formula on helping yourself create opportunities in your life. We're going to show you how to do that. This was the critical information. Notice it doesn't say, here's what I stink at, and here's what I hate. We didn't do that. We said, go for the power. Go for the gift. And the gift identifies the strengths that you have. So let's keep moving. do. Right? So you have what am I good at and what am I passionate about. We're going to use that in a minute. I'm going to build each step. You're going to see I'm going to put the whole steps together in a minute. But if you turn to page 15, you can do this for your family. So here's what I'd like you to do. So if you have the kids with you here tonight, what is your family great at? What is your family passionate about? Because that's going to set up opportunities for your family to respond the way you might respond. We're going to use that in a minute. So think about that, work on that together. And I'll put a little music on for a second because I can't talk to you.
Just one. Stealth, Stephen, stealth. Seriously dead. He's fine. He's not
You're the one who's sorry, what did you say? I can't hear you.
Okay, how you doing with that? Pretty easy, right? So here's the issue. You have the All About Me worksheet, right? So you did all the work, you put that information on there, and from there you put down two things. What are the things you're good at, what are the things you love, right? That's all we've done so far. You had to go through those activities to spend some time with yourself to see what you're good at and what you love. And I had you fill out more information than we needed so you could see how big you are. Now I'm asking you on the All About Me worksheet, just pull out the two critical captures we're looking at, and look what we call it. That's what we call your greatest factor. You know, the X factor, the thing that gives you an advantage? Well, your gifts give you an advantage. It shows, not that you're great at everything, but these are the things that seem to fit you the best. And if you knew this information about you, you would start to look at your world differently on where you would show up. So what I wanted to show you is, as much as you can do this for you can do this for your family. You can also do this for your church. You can do this for your community. By looking at who's in it and what are they great at and what are they passionate about. Let me ask you, why do I care? Why do you care what you're passionate about? Why don't I just say, what are you great at? Who cares about the passion piece? What's the value of loving something or being passionate about something? Yeah, it's the drive, it's the fuel. So if you're good at something and you love it, you're going to work hard to get great at it. If you're good at something but you don't love it, you're not going to work that hard at it. So that's why we say your factor is those two. And if you could put yourself in places, no matter what your age, where you're good at it and you love it, you show up in your greatest way. Okay? That's what we're after. Now, let me show you what comes next. So, remember we said at the beginning, the whole goal of this was to get you to something practical. I know who I am, I know what I'm good at now. How do I invent possibilities in today's world that fit? So you needed this form to do it. Because here's how we do it. You pick one thing you're good at, and one thing you're passionate about. And then you brainstorm all of the things you could do with it, and you put it on your possibilities sheet. Everything fits you. Hold on, we're not going to do it yet. You're not ready to do it. I gotta leave you to one more thing. But I wanted to show you where we were. So, again, the steps. We had to figure ourselves out. We listed all of the things about us that were all of our abilities. And then we picked off just the things that we're good at and passionate about. Two critical things that in your hardwiring, remember we talked about that last time? Once you discover this about you, over your entire life, it doesn't change that much. What you're good at and passionate about seem to ride with you. Every now and then you'll find out more information about some things, but once you get it, it doesn't change that much. So once you know this, you can build possibilities that fit you all the time. So here's what I like most about this. When we get to the possibilities, not there yet, we're going to get there. When we get to them, everything you're going to put on that list to show up in your family, at your church, at work, wherever it is, when you use this thinking, everything fits you. Everything matches what you're good at and what you love. We're going to do a little bit more with this, but the whole idea of not feeling stuck. See, the big thing that happens when we talk about greatness and gifts is that we think this is the only thing we can do with it. And the best thing that we can do, other than knowing what makes us different and unique and amazing and awesome, is to say, where in the world, in a bigger view of it, might I show up and bring this? But the problem is that society says, here's all the things that you should do or can do, and that's it. And I want you to see it in a really big way, because I want your possibilities to be as big as you can imagine them. Because everything you do from here still will align to what you are good at and what you're passionate about. So I want you to see that there's a lot of options in there. But here's our problem. We're not possibility thinkers. That's the problem. We used to be, but we're not. Because of this. We don't really enjoy what we do. Kids laugh or smile 400 times a day, and adults do it 15. Yeah, pretty tough. Kids, there's some information we need from you. Help us out, right? So, here's the other reason why we're not possibility thinkers. We lack creativity. 70% of 5-year-olds are creative. Look at this. 50% of 7-year-olds and 2% of adults are creative. Why? Why do you think that happened? Did we just grow out of it? People tell us the grass is green, the sky is blue, the sun is yellow, it has to be this. And we believe them. So before I'm going to let you create some possibilities, because I want them to be as big as you'll make them, I want to push your level of creative thinking. So we are now, let's see if it's ready. We're almost there. We are going to get into what we call the creativity zone. Hey Bob, you're on for the creativity zone. So here's what goes on in creativity. Most of the time, we have this narrow focus and everything looks the same. Everybody says this is how it's supposed to be. But look where all the great benefits are. They're not there. They're on the places that move out to the side. So when we're looking here, you know how people say your thinking should be out of the box? Well, I like a better one. It's out of the corners of my eye. Because everybody's doing what's in that circle. Your possibilities to expand your world are outside of what everybody else does. The challenge we have is, most of the time, the only things we'll consider is what everybody else says is okay. Tonight, there's no limit. In a minute, you're going to be on teams, you're going to come up with as many ideas about each thing I throw at you, and whatever team wins, there are 9 teams tonight, your high score will get you a prize. So here's what we say we want you to get in the zone. And here's what we want to get in the zone. So I don't want you to think slow. Because think of this, the real reason why we're doing this, is to invent possibilities so you show up in the biggest way possible. What if the possibilities you have look like all of the standard ones? Then how do you know what you could be or could do, or how you could change the world, or how big you could add to your family or add to your church? Without expanding what you would consider, you go right for the standard things. Our brains like patterns and do the same thing over and over again. So I want you to push your patterns. So the reason why I insisted that the kids be on the table is they're better at this than we are. They're so much better at this than we are. So we've got to watch. And that means someone needs to keep score. So, this is why we string it off. We say, for the rest of tonight, this place is not just the church hall, it is now the creativity zone. Do not think small. Everything about this now, go for big. At the end, you can always say, no, I don't want to. But don't give yourself the ability, or don't stop yourself from thinking big about where you can show up, how you can show up, and how you can play to your greatness. It doesn't say play to your smallness, play to your averageness, it says play to your greatness. So the way that we do that is to encourage you to get out of the way. All right, so here's a little information you need, and let me just explain it to the adults in the audience. These are the 4 ways that we expand our creativity. Here's the process. We explore. So I'm going to give you a situation. Explore means talk about it for a minute. Invent. Here's the one we always miss. Because most people go explore, oh, I think we should do this, choose, and then implement. Let's do this. We jump right over this everywhere we go. So I want you to get good at inventing. So I'm just going to give you a couple of things. I'm not asking you to choose any one that's good or not good. I just want you to write down everything that comes to mind. Everything, because I will pay you points for everything that you write. I don't even have an auditor here, so I'm not even going to check on spelling or anything else. So somebody on your table who writes the fastest should be the one with the paper and the pen. Okay? Because all you get is 2 minutes for every one of the situations I give you. I'm going to get you there in a minute. Here's what I want most for you. I want you to push the way that you think just for now. And I'm hoping you take it with you when you go. Because as soon as we finish this kind of thinking, I'm going to ask you to start to consider some possibilities for yourself. One thing I'm good at, one thing I'm passionate about, put the two together. What could I do? How could I show up? Before you're ready to do that, I have to push you a little bit. So, sorry, it's Sunday night, we got to push you a little bit. So, what I want most here is not about what you choose. Don't say, hey, I got a great idea. I want you to have any idea. I don't care if it's an awful idea. Just that you consider everything. If it comes into your brain, it's like a gumball, it rolls right out and you write it down. That will help you tonight. Because most of the time we have an idea, and what do? I can't say that. What will they think of me? And no, that's not a really good idea. I want you to be okay with every idea. Because when it comes to creating possibilities, every idea should be considered. Okay? Because sometimes it's not the idea itself, it's the idea that you wrote down made you think of 3 other ideas you were not going to get to had you not done it. Does that make sense? Okay. So, everybody ready? We got 2 minutes on each one. I'm going to put a little background music on so you cannot hear each other. Oh, it's a church, you don't cheat. You need my instructions, right? So you will get 2 minutes to write down every idea that comes when I put things out there. What would you do? Ready? 2 minutes. Here you go. With $500. Everything. What would you do with $500? Invest.
I'd say Bill's the top.
Come on, ideas. Write it down. You can use shorthand.
I like that. Team number 1. 22. Team number 2.
Student number 5. 21. Student number 6. 32. Student number 7. 11. Student number 8. 15. We're not done yet. Here's your next one. Wait, tell you about it.
She was writing, so she didn't.
I'm giving you 5 or 6 different ways of thinking creatively, okay? So this one says, what would you do with? Okay, parents, if you want to get some ideas for your kids, each one of these is a different way of getting them to talk to you, okay? So here's the next one. Word association. Everything this word makes you think of, all right? Everybody ready? 2 minutes, that's it. That's it.
Doctor's dentist. Toys.
Question marks. Exclamation marks. Ears. Mustache.
I'm not. Fire them up. Let me talk to you about this. Why am I doing this? Really, why am I doing this? Tell me anything that you've noticed that's different. When you did this, what happened? You talked to each other, you bonded. So this process of discovering and helping people step into their greatness doesn't have to be torture. So how do you brainstorm great ideas on how to share big to school, to life, to relationships, to whatever? This as well. So how many? 44 there. Get in there. How many have? 53. Beautiful. Go count it.
Yeah, they got like
42. Is everybody writing the same number?
66. How many? 54. How many? 71. 35. Good job. That's a lot of great help. You have 3 more of these. Okay? Simile. What is a simile? Parents ask your kids this. Simile is a metaphor. What's a simile or metaphor?
all down the side.
You know you're going to get English grammar tonight, did you? What is it?
Is he on his mic?
Beautiful. It's a comparison. Simile. Finish your phrase. Finish your phrase. Hold on a second. They get harder from this point. I gave you the easy ones. These are all different. I should have said that. Because now you can figure out whether these are harder or not. This is a little bit more complex. So you just need to, I'm going to give you a phrase. You finish the phrase. Going to church is fun. And nobody's going to read these, so go ahead.
Extreme boredom.
Going to the dentist.
Extreme singing.
No. Extreme peaceful. When my children are sitting there. When you go without them. Not get your head up. Stop listening.
red.
We're positive, real big. You don't want to sound like a loser. How about like
21.
yeah, with the three natives there?
25. 36.
It's like a square peg.
14. This one was hard. All right, so what am I giving you, besides the ability to talk to each other now, is a way of looking at how you talk about things. So everything doesn't need to be difficult. So kids and parents, how could you reframe the way you talk to each other and sometimes do these? So you could do word association, say vacation. What do you think we should do? You could say, going to school is like what for me? So tell me what it's like for you. So that we can start to develop some possibilities to help you choose a different way to approach some things. It's a great way that people always presume that this is only for some time in a course like this. It isn't. It's the way that we choose to show up and creatively see our world or get stuck in our pattern. So yet another way. So if you're up for it, just one thing. So going to church is like getting our weekly fill of the Lord. It's like sitting near a koi pond. Very nice. Okay.
Like being in a family.
Like being in a family. Like having a meal with God. Great. What else?
Going to church is like childbirth.
It's like childbirth. Okay. No judgment. No judgment. I imagine she means something amazing comes from it. All right, you ready? It's like going home.
Like being with extended family.
Like being in an extended family? Going to church is like? Like what? I can't hear you. Okay, great. So, notice I have not been asking you what kinds of things you've been writing. I don't really want that right now. What I want you to do is feel comfortable saying whatever comes to my mind, I want to write it down because the real goal in a minute is I'm going to have you start to create some possibilities that fit the real you. What are you good at, what you love, put the two together and invent. Don't solve it, don't choose, don't implement. We're not there yet. Just invent. What could happen? Okay? Next one. Now, this one's the toughest one. I'm going to give you two pictures of things that you would think don't go together. Give your brain a minute, it will always find some connection. So, 2 minutes, here you go. Where are they the same? What are all the things that are similar?
Relax.
There you go. Red, blue, magenta, violet.
Okay, 1 minute. Much harder, isn't it?
Light, dark, moldable. You're overthinking. Just think small ones though.
Smaller than my.
Just put initials.
I like that one. It's vintage.
Go louder. All right, time's up. Animal, much different, right? Some not so fun, maybe. I just wanted you to see a variety of different ways of coming up with it. 17, 15,
Tell them that.
21. Over here. 32.
Those are my colors.
76.
We're still working. Go ahead.
1,211, did I hear? How many?
17,312.
Sorry, I missed it. How many? 32. 31. 32. Okay, now Bob's going to add those up. There was one more we're going to do tonight. Just wanted to show you. So you're going to get your scores in a second, and then we have a prize. Hold on a second. Let me show you. Here's one that we like to do one more time. So I like people to say, here's an award. What would you call this award? A family award. What's your greatness award? We're not going to do it tonight. But I just wanted to say, this used to be known as an Oscar. What would you do in your family? How do you celebrate things? What could you come up with? What's unique to your family that would identify when someone has stepped way out of the norm and have done something amazing? So, all of that is for you to choose. Remember we said all of this is for you to choose. How do you step into greatness? You check out every opportunity in the world to show up bigger than you were. When you know what you're good at and you know what you love, you start to choose things that show up right for you. Now the whole goal of me doing this with you, look, this took 15 minutes. And it completely changed tonight because it was fun. And anything that you need to solve, you can solve in any creative way you want. You do not have to make it torture. So, similes, word associations. What would you do with? Name the award. Two pictures that don't go together. All of that is forcing the brain to think bigger. It's to notice the things that are over here. Not the things everybody else does, but the things that are over here. When you do that, you start to see a bigger world. There's all of this stuff that you hadn't noticed before because we are always good at looking this way. So I wanted you to try and pull the blinders off tonight. Just before you start to create some possibilities, I just wanted you to know how it felt so that when you try it, you see what it feels like. You are not going to solve everything tonight. That's okay. I just wanted you to see the process in a new mind. That what matters to you is the real you, to see your real world, and how would I choose opportunities as big as I can think of them, to find the ones that fit me, even if everybody else doesn't see what I see. Because there's a great chance you see things that other people don't see. And that's based on your unique set of gifts that you have. So Bob, what is the high score tonight?
Table 6, 275.
This is right. Yeah. a couple of things to share with the parents. We're going to bring you all back together and we'll wind it down. Here's what I need you to do. Now that your brain is not hovering around what it normally does, I got to catch you quick. I want you to go back to that page about creating possibilities. So if you go back to page 17. So here's what I need you to do first. I'll put a little background music on it. Work on this by yourself just for a couple minutes. I just need you to see it. Pick one thing that you're good at. Pick one thing that you're passionate about. Then think about all of the things you could do with it in church. Pick the thing that you are amazing at and passionate about. What could you do with that combination in church? We're going to talk bigger too. I just wanted you to find one place that we all know about. So, if I am really good at teaching, and I'm really passionate about health, what could I offer here at church that would help people? Where's everything that comes to mind? Pretend I'm giving you points for everything you put on your possibility sheet. Think about that. Do that for yourself in a minute. We'll do it as families, and then we separate the kids and the parents for something different. Does that make sense? What are you good at? What do you love? Create possibilities. You can combine that combination of something you're good at and you love, and it could benefit your church. Sorry, it was on page 17. Maybe 18, it should say possibility. Sorry. That's good. Yeah, sorry, that's one of the copies. It's the one that looks like this. Whatever page number that shows up. One thing you're good at, one thing you love, put it together, and now brainstorm. That's all it was. You just did it as a team. Try it by yourself. If you need help, go to everybody on your table and say, if I'm good at this and passionate about this, what are all the things I could do? How could I show up? And then start to get help from everybody on your table.
I don't know my place anymore.
Kids, you may want to help your parents. You're great at brainstorming.
Okay. What can you do? Oh, you can put in the backyard. What can you do? RJ, what are you doing today? Yeah, come on, show us. This is why you two work together and start. I know. Some conventions we want to take apart before exactly. He's the 27th of December and he's the 30th. They're in some ways they're the exact They had the same
Let me interrupt you for a minute.
We laughed.
This is the next step of the process. The last part of the process is how you create an action plan. Once you create possibilities that fit you. So, what are we trying to do? We're doing nothing more than brainstorming ways for you to show up in your greatness. What are you good at? What do you love? When you put those two things together, what comes to mind? Where are the applications that you could start to do if you're athletic and you're committed to serving and helping other people and you're strong? So kids, maybe it's part of the a team that goes to people who can't get some yard work done themselves, and you volunteer through the church to show up and do things like that. That's what I'm talking about. Now, this is a bigger message too. This is the formula that we use when we teach high school students how to figure out where they might go for work and what career and what college may fit them. Here's what I'm good at, here's what I love, where in the world could I do it? So I'm asking you in this picture now to say, where in my church world can I do this? But the steps are the same whether you talk about life in the big world, in the big way, you talk about church, and in a minute we're going to do the same thing. How do I take what I'm good at, what I love, and show up big in my family? Because, you know, we're not great at everything, but there's some things I can definitely do around this house that fit me and I'm good at, and I should be the one doing them. And how do we have a conversation about focusing where it is that we're great? Now, this formula is not just about home or church. It ideally is the biggest one. But sometimes the way for it to make most sense for us is to see it immediately in where we are. So I wanted you to see the steps. You did the All About Me worksheet so you could get two really critical pieces of information. What are you good at? What do you love? From that, you now have what we call your greatness factor. That's the thing that makes you different. That's your summary of the amazing gifts that you have, the passions that you have, and the abilities that you have. Great, now you know that. Now you can go and brainstorm ways throughout your world, however you define your world, on ways to show up in a big way, in work, at home, in church, or wherever you choose the definition of the world to be. Now that you have that, there is never a time when you can't use it. You can always use this. So, if there's a big life change, how do I get back on my feet? If there's a big decision I need to make, how do I play the one that fits me best? If I need to make some decisions about what project does the school need me to do for them, hey, I go right for what I'm good at and right for what I'm passionate about, and now I know it. Most other kids don't know it. Most other adults don't know it. Now you know it. How did you get here? I had to do those activities to give me a little bit of clarity about what I'm good at and what I love. Once I knew those, I can build possibilities day in and day out around things that always fit me. Everything on your possibilities list is perfect for you. That doesn't mean you want to do them right now. Maybe the world doesn't need what you just came up with. That's okay, save it. Maybe that doesn't matter to you right now. That's okay, save it. But everything else on that list could be exactly right for you. Now, everything that you get to choose from fits you. Most of the time, we're in places where we're trying to make decisions about things that don't fit us. Now you have a way of helping always know what fits you. That's what I wanted for you. So, our next step is to take the kids and go out, take your pack with you. You need your greatness factor worksheet. Bob's going to take you into that side room. Adults, we're going to talk a little bit about coaching your kids into greatness. We're going to really well. And I just titled it this, Guiding Our Kids into Greatness. So the reason to include them in the process, I know this is hard for some. This is way earlier in their development for some of these too. When you see the conversation about it is the thing that we most want. That there are creative and dynamic ways of saying, do you know what you're great at? Do you know what you're passionate about? Do you know what your gifts are? How have you shown up today using your gifts? So I wanted to introduce a couple of things that we seem to have stumbled on that seem to be guiding some parents pretty well. I want to start with a quick story about, these are my three kids. So my middle daughter just got married, one of the boys just got married, so this picture's a couple of years old. We have this little ceremony we have when the kids turn 18. We call it the passing of the baton. So we have their diploma rolled up and we say, look, in 18 years we have tried everything we can think of to show you how big the world is. It is now your turn to choose. If you're ready to go out and own your piece of it, then you can take the baton and you can run with it. If you're not ready, then we'll hold the baton until you're ready. Each one of the three. Guys. But here's the deal. You can't send the baton back. If you take it, you own the whole thing. We have tried to show you all the ways to show up big to everything in your choice. We have walked you around the banquet table. Remember that? We talked about that last time? My dad said, you got to walk around, don't touch anything until you can try things. We have tried that so you saw everything you could choose from, and you knew what you're good at, what you love, and now look at your world where you fit. What we want most for you is to show in your world in a way that you wake up each morning thrilled by life. That's what we want. If you had that, you would not be like us. We would be so different than most other people who roll out of bed and curse it as yet one more day. We don't want that. So the reason why I share that is we did a couple of things with them that I want to And the biggest thing that we talked about are these three. When do you parent, when do you coach, and when do you mentor? Now, I'm not telling anybody how to run their household. I want to offer a couple of things that we saw change how our kids showed up to their lives. So they have now chosen wisely about careers, about college, whether it's college or not, which college and what their majors were. They did all that so that they were entirely accountable for the quality of the life they invented. Two of them now married. Both of them have chosen really wisely about people who align to what they believe and the quality of life that they like. So in it, we are doing a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. There is definitely a time when we tell our kids. It has to be like this, and mostly I find it's when they're younger and they need to know the rules to stay safe and to know what's right and wrong from our perspective as we set the stage for them to go through. What I find most parents do is they take the parenting thing through until the kids are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. That we are really good at this telling thing because that's the way we learn it. And I wanted to introduce what it would sound like if you started coaching them, asking them, and bringing them into the conversation so that they become accountable. So telling doesn't always create accountability. Coaching always creates accountability. And the reason that I wanted to share this with you is how then do we bring them into that? So that's where I want to spend most of our 15 minutes here. Finally, mentoring. My kids are older. My kids are 27, 26, and 23. They don't really need me to parent. I already passed the baton. The parenting thing, that's over. Coaching, I sometimes do. Mentoring, I do a lot. And that's when they say, hey, I need some ideas, Dad, on what would I do here? So you know me, I'm a big cook and I'm a big gardener. So anytime it's about the kitchen or the yard, my kids call up for some mentoring. So that just means I've moved into my next role with them. And I've identified this is the way that it helps them the most and I show up the biggest to it. So this entire approach is not how you must do it, is that consider what would it take to ease them into their greatness, hold them accountable, and at the same time, support them as they struggle through the process, because you know it's not easy. But you know that when they do show up big, when they do show up and find their thing, then everything about their life changes, which is, I know, what we all want. Sometimes we get stuck in our own process, so I really wanted to show you a little bit about coaching. So, let me put these forward. The biggest thing that happens in coaching, other than we're going to talk about questions in a minute, because this is where all the power is. In fact, this is the power of life, is the power in questions. Not in the answers, but in the questions. How do you acknowledge and validate? That's the first big thing that we need to do with our kids all the time. I get you, I hear you. I don't always have to agree with you, but I hear that's who you are. The biggest thing that we do in coaching is to ensure that the person who's saying it feels heard, acknowledged and validated. It was the way you feel. I don't know why you feel the way, but you know what? Okay, well, that's where we're going to start in coaching. And when we do that, we start to give them permission to keep going. When we don't acknowledge and validate, they shut down, they stop. So a couple of things changes everything. Once you've acknowledged and validate, how then do you say, and this takes huge control to shift out of telling and into coaching. I'm after the information. I don't know what's going on, but I know what you just said to me is enough for me to tell her to stay in her room until she's 41. But I don't know why that came out. So I'm going to manage this, and I'm going to ask some important questions. We're going to get to those kind of questions in a minute. We've got to gather information. The reason why we gather information and we throw it back to them with a question is, you need to solve this. I'm here to guide you. So I need to know what you're thinking, and I want to know your ideas, and how do you think you might approach that, and why did they say that to you, and if that happens, what do you think you've got to do next? Are really different than, here's what you should do. And that's where most of us coach. It's really hard to step into greatness because their definition might be different than ours. How do we help them discover what it is, own it? Just because you think you are good at this, like this, and it matters to you that you should go off, get tattooed, and go live like a bohemian, okay, I get that. So return is, how do you think you're going to make a living doing that? And when they go, I don't know. No, I have got all night. I am waiting for an answer. Because what I really want to know is, what are you thinking about it? And maybe what I'll show you in this is you haven't done enough work yet. I'm okay with that, so let's go do some work together. Or maybe it's, I have some great concerns about that. Can I share those with you? Now we start to bring them into a conversation. And what I find happens most is we're just not in a conversation. The final one is the support. So acknowledge and validate, gather some information, hold them accountable. How can I help you show up big to your own life? Now, that's really different than here's where I need you to go, or you should go to this college, or you should have these for friends, or you should do a lot of things. And what I find frequently is when we release our kids to the world to do what it is that they're called to do, how do we help them listen for what that calling is? Because most of the time, it took us a while to figure it out. Why would we think they would know? And why would we think we would know theirs? So I shared last time that I come from a big Italian family, 6 kids in my family. Well, initially, my dad had one road for all of us. Here's you go, this is your path, go and do it. Well, what if that's not you? How then do you show up big to your world? You don't. You keep pretending to be something you're not so that everybody around you is fine. How do you help them tell you what it is that they're thinking about so you can guide them? So to me, it's all in the power of question. The thing I like most about questions, I just want to see what you thought about this, is when you ask a question, you immediately stop making it about you and you make it about them. So if you want to hold somebody really accountable, you ask their perspective on something. So I have another colleague friend of ours. His daughter is having some challenges. She's 14, not happy with the world at the moment for lots of reasons. So Seth steps into her room and she screams at him, "What do you think you're doing in here? You did not knock. You are not allowed in my room." Okay, parents, what is your first reaction? What's your first reaction? You don't talk to me that way. You are grounded. You. So, here's what a little coaching could do. Melissa, that's not the way we talk to our parents. Tell me what is going on with you in this moment that you think this is okay. Now, no point in here am I lessening the impact that this is entirely unacceptable. But by asking that question, Seth found out in the moment that she's having this real big problem with a couple of her friends at school who are being total you-know-whats to her, and she does not know how to deal with it. So the only person who gets it is the people that we love. So boom, she launched this assault on him. And all that it took was, wait a minute, I don't deserve this. You need to tell me why you think it's fair that I hear that. So tell me, why is this fair? Well, it's not fair. I agree with you. Why is this going on? Well, the kids at school are driving me crazy. Great, now or after what's really going on? Now, can we have a conversation about that? We still can ask. Maybe they're not ready to have the conversation, but it was in the power of question. So how do we know in our own head when telling needs to move gently to asking? So that you're comfortable. I'm not saying abdicate responsibility, I'm saying try it. When will the change go from, now I have just created the spark that blew the entire roof off the house, to, wow, I had no idea it was that tough for her, because I'm really busy in the course of the day, and I'm not paying attention to all the signals my kids are sending out to me. So what is it that that signal said? I'm calling for help here, and you know what? You happen to be the ones who launched it at you. How do I ask other questions about it? I find we can do this about both the challenges as well as the successes. So somebody had a terrific time at church. The event was terrific. They're so happy. They're euphoric. So what do you say? Tell me all about that. I just want to know what that's like. And that requires this. Is it safe for them to share their progress stepping into greatness with you? If it isn't, because they fear this all the time, then how will you change your space? How will you make time? How will you offer? And moreover, when the time comes, how will you invite? I would like to have a conversation with you, and I know what that's like, so my kids do the same thing. We can't unplug, they can't unplug for a second to have a conversation other than, what do you want for supper? Not quite sure what that is, but here's what we're having. So all of that starts to change what space do you want to create for them. So there's some great information out there of families who have committed to weekends that have no power. In other words, I'm sorry, you cannot plug anything in that connects you to the outside world. I know that you have homework. So from this hour to this hour, you can do homework. Other than that, this thing is called family time. And the first week, month, year you try it, they are going to scream and fight because nobody does this stuff. But what does it create for you? So when I look back at the things I put my kids through, so they would be in this space now, aware of the places in their world that fit them. I understand that I totally cramp their style sometimes. But they also humored me or did it, and I know now, in fact, we were having a conversation on the ride up here today with my oldest one. She said, you know, I can't believe I actually adore my job. I listen to everybody else and they can't stand work. So, okay, so Kristen, I'm not going to say good or bad, anything, I'm just going to ask another question. So why do you think you love your job so much? That it fits me. The biggest thing that it does is I love what I do and I'm good at it, and everybody knows it. Great. So, how do you help your friends do that, Kristen? What would happen if you weren't in that situation? How will you encourage others to be there? If you had to ask any of these questions, the challenge I find is that never say something, always ask something. Drives your kids crazy, first of all. So if you really want to get back at your kids, ask them, ask them, ask them. But the other thing it does is it always says, it's a volley, boom, right back to you, boom, right back to you. So I want to know this stuff. Who's doing this? What are they saying? Well, tell me about what that's like. How do you feel when that happens? All of this stuff. And what I find, Johnny, happens is what we find in great coaching environments is that when we create that safe place, then all of the questions that we ask, they understand that the only goal in this is for them. It's not about some agenda I have. I'm not trying to force them into something. I want them to know that I'm here to walk alongside and figure out wherever the road is. I know maybe you don't know where it is yet, but how can I help you? What do I have to show you to rule it in or rule it out? How can I have a conversation with you? And moreover, what will it be like in the way that we talk to each other that I always support you? But that can't happen if there's no respect. So I'm going to hold you accountable for the way that you think, and for the kinds of responses you give me as a parent. So give me an idea of a tough situation that seems to be a challenge, where a question would be a better response than telling.
Well, just like you said, when they're taking whatever it is that's bothering them out on you, because a lot of times adolescents don't have the vocabulary to know what's bugging them.
Yep.
So as hard as it is for parents, if we just kind of take a step back to get at the root of what's bothering them. But I mean, it's really hard to do though as a parent, because my first reaction is, don't talk to me like that, and it's my house, and on we go, and then they just shut down. But I think that's the toughest situation, is when they're attacking us, as a parent, and it's really hard to think of a question to ask in the heat of the moment.
Go ahead.
I think especially when they're struggling with school or, church or whatever, it helps to say, what is the problem with this class, instead of just saying, you're going to have to do better, you're going to have to spend 4 more hours of homework, you have to check this box. It makes a lot of sense to start with that.
Well, I think the other thing about that too is, so now you're relating to where they are. Because remember, this whole thing is about gathering information. Acknowledge and validate. Wow, it seems really tough for you. What's going on that's making it so tough for you? Okay, acknowledge and validate, and then ask a question. I'm only after information here because I can't help you if I don't know what's true, what's not true. So I just want to know. And if you allow me in, I'll brainstorm with you. I'll even give you points, and you get more points than me, I'll give you a prize, whatever. All of that says, look, I have a lot of different ways. I got so many tools in my toolbox to try and help you figure out how to step into the biggest you possible. The biggest, the most creative, the most dynamic. That's what I want for you. So how do I help you see that I'm on your side? And right now, the press that our kids get all the time is we're not on their side. That we're always these ogres trying to take things away from them and make them accountable and make them own their life. And yes, absolutely. Because when you move out, as my mother used to say to us, and the reason why she taught us how to cook, was when you move out, and you are moving out, because we deserve some peace and quiet, and we did our time, and I am on the HOV lane to heaven because, you know what, you were my kids, but because of that, I want you to be successful and happy, and I want you to live life. So how will that happen? It's going to be me helping you be accountable, because how do you know that? School doesn't always make you accountable. Your friends don't make you accountable. Sometimes, we're depending on what activities kids are in, they also don't make them accountable. They're always cutting them slack on things that they don't want to do, and everybody gets a trophy. Well, sometimes you don't get a trophy, because you know what, you didn't work that hard. You don't get a trophy. So the question is, what would you have to do to change so next time you get a trophy? That's all I want to know. It's you, it's not me, it's you. And I find the moment you do this, and this all works great in the workplace, and it works great with your partners, when there's an issue out there, it's just, how do I acknowledge and validate, create some safe space, and talk about it? That's all I want to do. So Erin, you support me in some of this. This is what counseling and coaching share some things. It's about how do we have that conversation? Because I can't possibly get at the information without knowing where you are, and how can I help you feel safe in order to share this? So to me, there's parenting telling, coaching asking, and then the final one is measuring where these couple of things happen. So you're the expert. Finally, your kids see you as an expert. It takes a while. So my kids are late in their 20s, so it's finally starting to happen. So with that, we now start to say, well, where are the places I'm truly the source? So sometimes I will tell, sometimes I will ask, and sometimes I will share. And in the process of sharing, we start to then set the stage to make sure that this next stage of life, or in our interactions with our kids, that we start to create the ability of helping them at all stages in their life by being a parent when we need to, a coach when we need to, and a mentor when we need to. So let me ask you, the reason to show this was that we find that when we do this, we completely change the dynamic between the parent and the kid. Or we find it, actually we do this in the workplace too, between manager and employee. So how can this work for you to help your kids step into what the whole purpose of these 2 nights were about? How does this approach help your kids step into greatness, into their greatness, whatever that might be? How will you be okay if their definition of greatness and who I want to be and how I want to show up to the world is different than what you thought for them? How will you have a conversation about that? What's it like for you? I grew up in Italian. I didn't get to have that conversation initially. We eventually had. But initially, I didn't get to be the other side of it. I wish I had. I would have been an accountant. I shared that story with you, right? CPA, why am I here? Well, because my room was so neat and organized, you should be an accountant. It's not the real reason. Anybody taking me through what are you good at, what do you love, I don't know CPA would have been ever on the list of possibilities. But okay, so we did that for a while until we realized that wasn't the right one because I didn't have the conversation. I didn't know I had a choice. I didn't know how to brainstorm. I didn't know how to make it about what I needed. It was, how do I listen to the telling parent what I should do? So I just wanted to offer it to you now, and I'll tell you in a minute what they're working on. They're designed to challenge you. They're like little Zen masters, right? They come out and they poke every side of you. And the real reason is they're experimenting, trying to figure out what is going on in this really big, weird world. And our job is to coach and guide them by creating foundation values in church, foundation values at home. So there are times when telling is exactly right. And there are times as they get older when asking is really right. And when we know the difference, frequently happens because we go into autopilot and we tell, and all of a sudden we get some pushback. We're like, whoa, there's the signal. Let me rephrase that, and let me ask them. And I frequently find the way to move from one system to the next is to get comfortable noticing when your reaction to them gave you an equally tough reaction back. That's probably a way you might want to push it and say, you know what, let me start that whole thing again. Everybody going back right after you, back up. Okay, so instead of me telling you that, I want to try something new. I'd like you to talk to me about it. Here's my question. And then launch the question and see what they say. So, what are your questions about questions?
One thing I see with, especially with Sam, is when we try to talk and ask questions, is he throws back to me, Mom, stop social working me.
Yeah, you have a huge uphill battle there.
Yeah. But we will constantly ask him, wanting him to take ownership.
Yeah, I like that you said that. It is easier to tell them. But that doesn't mean they ever do it. In fact, most of the time it means they won't. That's terrible that way.
I think one of the other challenges is that our chemistry as parents is different within our kids. So she's really good at the social work thing, which is actually just coaching Sam, and he actually appreciates it more than he lets on. But with Sam, I'm a professional teller, which is funny because that's not how I operate, right? In my professional life, I'm good at the other stuff actually, but not with Sam. With Ephraim, it's easy. I can do the coaching in different ways than Kate. For Sam, it just doesn't click like that. I really struggle on that. But I think that's part of the dynamic too, is knowing that chemistry is different with different kids.
Yep, no, I like that you said that. There is never one size fits all in this. So who do I need to be and how do I need to be? One likes a lot of time, others don't like a lot of time. One wants a 10-step explanation, one wants 3 words and I'm out of here. Okay, so all of that says we just need to tune in. Let me acknowledge and validate where you are, and then from that place let me choose of the things I have available, which we're going to try. And how do you know? You try it, if it works, you do it again. If it doesn't work, you say, mental note, let me not do that next time. So all of that was to set you up, because here's what they're doing. So we asked them to identify what they're good at and what they're passionate about. And we say, well, what's another way of saying someone who's got really unique abilities, they're really passionate about it, and they show up big to their world? So we said, who's your hero? Who's a superhero maybe that you might be, that has your unique abilities and does something great in the world? So what they've been asked to do is to figure out how would they call themselves something, and how do they show up big to your family? How do they take what it is that they're great at, what it is they're passionate about, and show up as the superhero in your family? That's what they're looking for. So when they come back, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. I would love for you to practice the questions that say, so what were you working on? Or whatever, you practice, whatever it is. So I'm going to go peek in and see where they are in this process. So I'll give you a minute. So think about this. That's where they are. Let me add just one more thing and then I'll go get it. Tonight's evening, our focus on greatness was ourselves, because if we can do it for ourselves, we know the roadmap. That doesn't mean our roadmap's exactly theirs, but we know the steps. So we did the All About Me worksheet so you could come up with the what am I great at and what am I passionate about. That's what I want. That's your starting point. That's your hardwiring saying you are amazing at these are your gifts. You now have that information and they have that information. Once you have that information, our next step was through a creative process to say, how could I show up big to my world? I need to invent some possibilities that fit me, but only those that fit me. Just things that require that I'm good at it and I love it. Just those. And if you had that, you would then, everything you create already is a perfect glove for you. It's a perfect shirt for you. It goes right for you. Doesn't mean now is the time to do it, but these things matter to you. So when we ask the kids to say, what are you good at and what do you love, how could you invent possibilities to be that super, not that average, that super at home? How might you see them showing up in a big way at home so that it can guide you to say, great, now be that great at church, great, now be that great at school, great, now be that great in life. How do I help you walk that path? What are you good at? What do you love? What matters to you? Where in today's world can I do it? That's the steps. So Mary and Mike in the book did that. Mary was already in it because her parents gave her the story, those 5 rules for great life. Mike didn't know how to do it until he hung out with Mary, and then he did it. And the reason why it was written that way was so that we could see who we are. Are we Mary or are we Mike? And if Mike, we resonate more with Mike, then it is because no one ever told us. That's okay, now we know. Today we know. Then, who around us can we touch in a way, guide in a way, ask a question in a way, mentor in a way, that would allow them to show up bigger than smaller, greater than average, playing to their gifts instead of hiding them and pretending they didn't get them. So all of that sets us up for our particular role. And I wanted to share that with you without them, so that they don't know that you've done all this stuff, to see how between what they've done and what you've done, how the ride home tonight might be really different than the ride home any other night. Does that make sense? Great, so let me go find a way. So, I imagine you all have a lot to talk about, but you have a ride home for that. So, let me just wind us down a little bit here. So, first of all, we've been through a number of things together.
You go high five anymore.
Yeah.
The goal of this entire thing was to get to this one place. So, we talked 2 different ways. We talked about the whole greatness concept, and that's more the spiritual side of this, that you were born awesome, and you were born with a plan to show up and do some amazing things here. But the cool thing about that is we can't act just like the acorn, where it's in there and we just go ahead and do it. We get the ability to choose things. So you have to show up big to your life and start to choose things. Now, what we were after when we wrote the Greatness Zone was how can we help people develop a process to figure out what that might be? Because it would be really terrible if at the end of life we just didn't know what it was because we had no way of figuring it out. So what we showed you over the last week and tonight was do this work on you, all about me. From that, you create your greatness factor. There's two really critical things that you're great at and you love, and you can do it all the time. And if you did things that needed those two, you would love where you show up instead of hate where you show up, where most people, particularly in the workplace, don't have jobs they love and are not good at their jobs. So once you had that, then you pick one thing you're good at, one thing you love, brainstorm everything you could do. Pick another thing you're good at and another thing you love, brainstorm again. Brainstorm until you create that huge list of possibilities on that sheet, and everything on that page fits you. Doesn't mean you're going to do it right now. Doesn't mean you'll do it ever like, but it fits you. And then you have this master list of everything that fits you. Then you look at it and say, where in today's world, at home, at church, could I do this? Because if I did it, I would love it and I'd be good at it. Where, and you get older and you start thinking about what I should do in college or what I should do for work, then you start to say, so where's the job that fits me? What work would it be? And it doesn't have to be the standard old conventional stuff. Remember, that's what this is. You now know all the things you're great at that gives you these choices too. And that's what I wanted for you was both the theory of this, the spiritual theory of this, show up big because someone is tapping their foot saying, I gave you these amazing things, and so what are you doing with them? Or as we said as we started last week's class, someone greater than you thought you should be you and gave you these amazing things and is now wondering how you're going to show up and use them. So now you have a little bit of a process as well to say, I get me, I get my world, oh, let me see how I can put it all together. So my challenge to you as families is to have this conversation. How do you connect the best of each of you to the needs, the challenges, and the opportunities in your world wherever they are? At church, at home, in the workplace, in your relationships. All of that becomes for you. It's your conversation. It's the way that we figure how to do this. The last thing is how do you create a plan, and it's our next thing, greatness through action. It's great to know where your possibilities are, but you'll see in the pack that I gave you a worksheet that will help you say, if this is what I want to go get, because it fits me and I'm good at it, then here are the things I need to think about and go do it. So we're not going to do that now. I just want to show you all of the steps of the process. You now know you. You now know what you're great at and what you're passionate about. You know how to build possibilities, and the possibilities you want to work on, you now can create a plan and go do them. You have everything. So now there's no reason why those things that fit you really well, that allow you to love life, be great at it, and transform the world, you can do. So we have all of these. Let me put them all up. All right. One more. Greatness through consciousness. Paid attention to who I was, saw how different and unique I was. Greatness through confidence. My greatness factor worksheet. Here's what I'm good at and here's what I love. I can be confident knowing I don't have to be perfect in everything. Here's the place where I am great. I can show confidence in that. When I know what I'm great at, then I can go through greatness through innovation and create possibilities, big possibilities that fit me, because we learned how to think in a non-conventional way tonight. Number 4, once I come up with those possibilities, I can do greatness in action. I can build an action plan for the things that I really want. The possibilities that I listed, I'm not going to do them all, but I have a couple that might be perfect and I want to go get. And the final one that I ask people to consider is greatness through gratitude. How amazing is it that you were born with amazing gifts? How amazing is it that they could show up in today's world and change things if you knew them and you used them? So to me, the way to respond is on your way up, on the way to bed, is to count your blessings instead of counting your sheep. Or whatever it takes supposed to count sheep to go to, I don't have that problem, I get rid of the pillow, I'm out. But how are you grateful on your way to bed? Because that sets the framework so that the mind sleeps that way and wakes up that way. So, 5 ways to step into greatness. We've used them all in the process. One of my favorite quotes, to each of us comes that moment in life where we are figuratively tapped on the shoulder to do that very special thing unique to ourselves and our talents. What a pity if this moment finds us unprepared. Critical comment that says, hey, wait a minute, it's there. And what we need to do is check in on it, know what it is, and when it's our turns, raise your hand and say, yeah, it's me. And you did that when you created your possibilities, and you did that when you created your action. So you have all the steps, and the steps show up in that little book. So I like to say this, good news should always be shared, and knowing who you are, knowing what you're great at, knowing how to show up big in your world so you can transform the world, that's really good news. Thank you.